my soccer universe, to a quick review of round 3 in European World Cup Qualifying. Sorry I didn't do a preview video, just didn't find the time to do it. However, this round was probably the first one where you had some real big matchups that actually meant something, none bigger than Norway against Italy. And it's kind of weird that for teams coming in from the Nations League playoffs, it actually starts full on in the June window, which is usually the one where the big teams are weakest, as exemplified by Italy, who went to Norway and more or less dashed already the chances for direct qualification to the World Cup. We'll talk about that a whole lot after we are reviewing the games. There's a whole Italy segment in there because it's just beggars belief what's going on in Italy. For Austria also, they had a big matchup against Romania, potentially their toughest opponent, at least it was at home, and they got the job done. We had some very unforced wins by the Netherlands and England, and then we had a true grudge matchup as well between Albania and Serbia, which was probably emotionally the toughest of them all. But I would say, let's review the matches, then we'll talk about where these 6 groups that are currently being played are at this point in time. And then we also have to address the misery that the Italy team is under before we wrap it up. In Group I, Israel celebrated already a second win, a 3-1 at Estonia, despite being 1-0 down. Biton scoring 2 goals before Abu Fani with a penalty seals the 3 points. However, in reality it was all about the big clash between Norway and Italy in Oslo, Norway's third and Italy's first qualifying game. It ends with a massive 3-0 win for Norway that already puts Italy's chances of qualifying directly for the World Cup at a bare minimum. They have to make up a whole lot in goal difference and win out and hope that Norway trip up along the way. It's an absolute disaster result for the Italians, and it fits an absolute disaster performance by Italy in this game. What a horrific first half. Yes, the first 10 minutes they tried to control the game as they did them for so many times, and they always lost the ball possession. However, it was always moving sideways, moving sideways, moving sideways. Tonali was maybe well in the game for 10 minutes and then completely lost the plot. But it was actually Bastoni who really lost the plot on the first goal. When first he tries a diagonal ball that's easily intercepted by Nusa, who then goes onto a run, and he so much pestered the Italian defense throughout the game. Then the ball comes to Surloth, where Coppola, who I think made his debut for Italy, makes a slight push on him that is not gonna really get him out of his rhythm. But even worse, Surloth would have been offside if Bastoni would have held the line. But what does Bastoni do? He puts Surloth onside and waves his hand for an offside. Absolute ridiculous defending, and in truth that already settled the game. However, got really bad for Italians. Again, Nusa running all over the pitch in the 34th minute at the Italians. No one is really attacking. Rovella even runs over Coppola in defense, and then he takes a shot, and Donnarumma also didn't look good on that one. 34th minute, 2-0 Norway, and then Ødegaard finds Haaland in the 42nd minute, and it's 3-0 for Norway. In the second half, I mean, there was a Berge free kick that nicely swerved on the inside of the post. It went out again, and there was barely anything coming from the Italians. The first shot on goal for Italy, who again had a lot of possession, however pressing so high, leaving ample space for the Norwegians to attack them in, and this is already a makeshift defense. The first shot for the Italians came in the 89th minute through Lorenzo Luca, a rather weak header. It is an absolute disaster. I think Spalletti is nearing the job, and I would argue all the reputation that he had built up with building his wonderful Napoli side, he destroyed now being a coach of the Azzurri. Belgium also started a World Cup qualification campaign in a tough spot, getting a 1-1 draw in Skopje, matching the result that Wales got. Wales probably the closest challenger in Group J. However, this was a lucky point for Belgium, I would argue, because North Macedonia should have taken the lead. When an Elmas shot hits first the right post, and on the rebound Alioski has a gaping net and hits the left post. And then just a minute later, it is Lukaku who plows through, takes a shot that is blocked, and the Kuiper taps it in. 28th minute, 1-0 Belgium, who of course had a little bit more to play, but I always felt that North Macedonia are the more dangerous team. And North Macedonia thought they'd equalized in the 48th minute through an Ilievski long-range shot. However, there was an offside that probably obstructed the goalkeeper on that one. So that goal was chalked off. Belgium also hit the post in the second half, but always North Macedonia who were dangerous dangerous, and then it's a Jurlinov cross in that Alioski out of the air more or less scissor kicks into the net. Wonderful equalizer in 86th minute for a well-deserved point for North Macedonia. And that allowed Wales to take control of the group, at least for now, with a 3-0 home win over Liechtenstein. Rodon, Harry Wilson and Kiefer Moore scoring the 3 goals. In Group K, the Czechs continued a perfect start to their qualification campaign with a 2-0 home win over Montenegro. Logic opening, scoring in 23rd minute. Then a Vukotic goal was disallowed for an offside. However, a Czerny goal in 47th minute also disallowed for offside. And then Václav Černý sets up Patrick Schick in the 65th minute to secure the Czechs the 3 points. Meanwhile, Croatia got their qualification campaign started with a 7-0 away win at Gibraltar. Pasalic opening, scoring in the 28th minute. Budimir doubling it up in the 30th. Sucic had even a goal disallowed in the 38th, but then it really went lopsided in the second half with Ivanovic scoring the 60th and the 63rd minute. Perisic in the 73rd adding a 5th, and Kramaric then adding a double in the 77th and 79th minute. Croatia working on the goal difference, which could prove crucial in this group. In the duel of the two bottom dwellers in Group G, Malta and Lithuania play out a dreary 0-0 draw. Lithuania really having a hard time breaking down Malta. The one highlight of the game though were Malta's wonderful anniversary jerseys. They looked truly retro. And in the same group, the Dutch also got their World Cup qualifying campaign started with an easy 2-0 away win at Finland. They scored early through Memphis Depay in the 6th minute, and then it was rolling attacks onto the Finnish goal, where then a nice cross by Gakpo finds Denzel Dumfries on the other post, and in the 23rd minute it's 2-0 for the Dutch. A little bit later on the Finns got better into the game, but overall the Dutch easily saw that one out and got 3 points to start their campaign. A clear sign that San Marino have improved as of late is that it took Bosnia until the 66th minute to break them down. In a game where, yes, Bosnia actually missed quite some big chances in the first half, but San Marino overall held tight. It needed then Dzeko, assisted by Dedic, to find the breakthrough, and they cannot add a second one. Still, Bosnia remain top of Group H. And in Group H, Austria also got their campaign started with a pretty big home matchup against Romania, who are considered to be the closest rivals, although in recent results it might suggest that Bosnia is the main rival for the first spot on that one. And Austria started on the back foot. Romania came out really aggressive and for 10 minutes asked questions of the Austrian defense, who seemed like a makeshift defense with Wöber coming in, but Austria held tight and then took over the game. And starting around the 15th minute, created chances. The first big one came to Wöber in the 30th minute, then Sabitzer had a couple of chances, but it was also that Austria were really dangerous from throw-ins, and one of those throw-ins from Vene came to Wöber that was then cleared towards Gregoric, who was totally free in the center of the box and could pull it into the net in the 42nd minute. An absolutely important can opener for Austria, who actually deserved that lead in the first half. And then in the second half, a little bit more of the same. And finally, Sabitzer, a nicely deflected shot, I think it got twice deflected, from the edge of the box, gives Austria the 2-0 lead. And it seemed like only a matter of time until it will be 3, if not 4. But that ended up not happening. And I also blame a little bit the substitutions, because it kind of took away the energy from the team. But also, Romania got back into the game. And starting around the 75th minute, Romania did create chances. There was a great save by Pence in there, where he's already falling down, gets his arm up and puts it over the crossbar. On the other side, Austria didn't really finish their nice counterattacks that they had, sometimes holding on to the ball for too long or sometimes missing the free man in the box. Sabitzer then seemingly killed it in the 93rd minute. However, Lima, who had assisted him, was offside in the build-up. And then with the last kick of the game, a Ratio cross comes in and Tanase heads it in to make it 2-1. Little bit of a buzzkill, to be honest. On the other side, Austria are off to a winning start. Just like Bosnia, England also had a really hard time breaking down Andorra in Barcelona in the Espanyol Stadium. However, it also has to be said they missed major chances. If you look at the XG of that game, it's way above 3, and so only a solitary goal is a rather meager result out of that one. I mean, Harry Kane once not getting his foot sorted, but in the end he gets the winning goal in the 50th minute, assisted by Madueke, but their bad luck in finishing was exemplified in stoppage time, when they really had twice a wide open goal to just pull it in, and they just couldn't. So Again, England not dazzling, not being convincing, but they get the win. Is that the recipe under Tuchel? But the big matchup in Group K was the grudge match between Albania and Serbia. I still can't believe that UEFA allowed those two to be drawn in the same group. If you watch the national anthems, you could not hear the Serbian national anthem. It was drowned out by incessant whistling and booing. And the game then was buoyed by this emotion, and it was rather level. I mean, Serbia had the chances, Albania had the chances, Albania had the biggest chance. When a penalty was given away, and Mana steps up in stoppage time of the first half and sees his penalty saved. Second half though, I don't know what happened to Albania, because Serbia then were the better team, however they also cannot find a breakthrough. And so, almost expectedly, in such a high emotional affair, it ends in a 0-0 draw. Now, due to some teams having already played 3 games, whereas the Nations League teams only played 1 game so far, the tables are all rather uneven. But at least we can look at the chances. I mean, the Dutch in Group G got a winning start. They sit still behind Finland because Finland already picked up 4 points. However, they have 2 games less, and Poland at 6 points is well in reach. The Dutch should be considered the favorites to advance in this group. Similarly in Group H, where Austria, after the opening win that was rather big, sits only in 4th place, however 11 points with Romania, Cyprus and themselves. Bosnia having a perfect 9 points out of 9 start. It is still Austria that are the favorites in this group. However, I'm starting to worry a little bit about Bosnia, because teams from former Yugoslavia are not teams that Austria does well against. On the other side, Austria should win this group rather easily. Group I, more or less already decided. I mean, Norway not only have now a 9-point cushion over Italy, but also a 13-goal advantage in goal difference, and that's the tiebreaker. So if Italy win out, they will only overtake Norway if they make up this 13-goal difference. It doesn't look likely that this is gonna happen. So it's all for second place, where, given the opposition, Israel, Moldova and Estonia, Italy should at least finish in second. Group J seems like a two-way race between Wales and Belgium. It should actually all be Belgium, but this Belgium team is really reeling at the moment. It's getting old, and you know, it needs to be refreshed. I'm not sure if Rüdiger Garcia is the right man to do that. But North Macedonia already took points of each of these opponents, albeit at home, so they are in the race as well. But it's a bit hill to climb for Belgium, who have a pretty tough matchup coming up. In Group K, smooth sailing for England so far. Nothing convincing, but they have yet to concede a goal. They have beaten all opponents so far. Yes, Serbia still needs to come, but they will also get a result against Serbia. So England are at the moment the team with the highest chance of qualifying for the World Cup. Whereas in Group L, it might come down to Croatia v Czechia. Another really big matchup. Montenegro, Faroe Islands and Gibraltar probably not quite into, although Montenegro can give each of these teams a little bit of a scare, but I think it will be between the Croats and the Czechs in that group. After this pure disaster in Norway that one could actually see coming from way out, I feel I have to talk about the state of Italian culture, the national team, but it also is more of a systemic issue. But let's start first with the national team, and of course with Spalletti as a coach. Except for this short period after the Euros, where they started well into the Nations League, I think Spalletti has not worked out. You really saw a spark right there when they beat France in Paris. That was the one time where I thought maybe Spalletti is building something. However, his character is too prickly. I feel he doesn't get really the locker room, and his tactics absolutely atrocious. And yes, there are some mitigating circumstances with players missing, but also how he's handling situations, how he gets upset at little things is really not helping anybody. And I really feel it's time for Spalletti to actually be let go and kind of salvage this situation, because Italy need to score a whole lot of goals. You need to make up a 13-goal differential against Norway, and you need to win out. So you need to win out in style, and this is something you don't see this Italy team doing. Which leads me to the second part. I mean, there's a definite lack of talent in this Italy squad, and this is really something that is mind-blowing. It's not that Italy is not producing talents. I mean, if you go to the under-17, maybe under-21 tournaments, Italian teams are doing relatively well there. However, they're not given a chance in the league, and I can point to a young, really great talent in Camarda at Milan, who was in the squad but barely got playing time because there is no patience. This is the other thing that I really don't like in Italy, that unless a player is beyond the age of 25, he will not get any chance in Serie A. And it really doesn't help that Serie A is a cash-strapped league, but this would be an opportunity not to get old players that have been back into the league as has been their modus operandi in the last 20 years. No, actually, this is a time where you focus on youth. And you should take a page out of the book what Germany did after the disasters in 2000 and 2004 at the Euros, where they actually rebuilt for the World Cup and then reaped the benefits afterwards, although it's not so perfect anymore. And to a similar degree, England also, after the disaster in 2014 and 2016, and they got a federation guy in, but they also had plenty of talent that finally got the best facilities. And I think Coverciano is not a bad facility, but facilities are a problem in Italy in general. I mean, just look at the stadiums. But all this is not necessarily a fault of the national team coach. This is a culture in Italy that you stick it out with the older guys and that everyone is only working for their own benefit without looking at the greater good. And that starts also on top of the federation with Gravina, who has now overseen a failure for another World Cup slip away, more or less. The Euros have been a disaster. It also has been a disaster to miss out on the previous World Cup, where you really had it all laid out in front of you. Although this is one miss that I would put down as unlucky. But unless Italy do not look at the problems that they have, this is still the most popular game in Italy. This is the soul of Italy, is the national team in many ways. But if they continue and they think that just because they're Italy, like so many players say it in Norway, we're Italy, we have to go to Norway and we have to win Norway. No, your name means nothing. And at this moment, you are risking of falling into the B level of European top teams. Spain is already far exceeding what you've done. France, talent pool after talent pool. And yes, those two are based on club teams that really focus also on developing young talent. I mean, Barcelona and most of the French club teams really know that their biggest asset are young talents. Unless Italy finally recognize they are not at the top at the moment, neither in the league nor on an international level, unless this really sinks in and you go humbly at this task, you will not succeed anymore. At this moment, I don't think Italy will qualify for the World Cup, which really beggars belief. But then, on the other side, did you see how they played against Switzerland in Berlin? This was not one of the 16 best sides in Europe. And there are smaller teams that are more forward-looking, that have a better organization than Italy has. And as much as I'm a fan of the Italian national team, I really have to say, at the moment, Italy is not fit to play the World Cup. It's probably even better for Europe if Italy do not qualify. Will I be sad if they don't qualify? That much is for certain. But major change has to happen, and you can look anywhere in the Italian game, from Serie A, Serie B, Serie G, to the national team, to the Fiji G. It's all stinking. It's all rotten. I think someone needs to come in and rip up the rule book. However, I don't think that this will happen in Italy, sadly. Now, if we look at the upcoming matches for World Cup qualification, on Monday we actually have two really big ones. We have Belgium against Wales. It's a must win for Belgium if they want to ever catch Wales. But also, if Wales avoid defeat, I think the chances look quite good. And of course, Croatia against Czechia. Similar stuff for the Croats. If the Czechs can get a point there, I would actually favor them to qualify from this group. Norway now have to follow up the big win against Italy with a win in Estonia, whereas Italy have to pick themselves up and beat Moldova, a Moldovan team that's usually hard to break down. Then on Tuesday, we have one sort of big matchup between Finland and Poland, which is for second spot behind the Netherlands. So that's probably the biggest one. Romania have to beat Cyprus at home. Austria will get probably a win at San Marino, at least I hope so, although San Marino will make it difficult. And then I think even the other games, Latvia, Albania and Serbia, Andorra, there's not really the big standout tie in there, not as much as we had on Monday. So slowly, World Cup qualifying gets rolling, and yes, the Nations League has something to do that the early match days here are rather slow, but it will definitely pick up then in September. But we had already quite some momentous results, and Italy already more or less out of direct qualification, meaning they need to rely on a playoff, and that has not worked well as of late. Please let me know what you think about the Italians' chances to qualify or any of the other groups. How did your team do during this qualification round, or did you play friendlies? In any case, drop a line below, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'll talk to you soon with more things in my soccer universe. Bye! Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, here are some videos and playlists that you may enjoy too. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever something happens in my soccer universe. And with that, have a wonderful day. Bye!